Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been, I think, about a month and a half since my last video. In all honesty, I haven't really been thinking about making videos, but for some reason today I thought it would be a good idea to sort of update you on what's going on. So today I actually ended up going on kind of like a mini road trip to a town called Campbellford. I'm more than halfway through my clinical placement for my PSW program right now. And so for the second half, or maybe second, whatever, the last 3 weeks of my placement, I'm going to be working at a rural hospital, so I decided to go out there and see kind of where it is, get a lay of the land, that sort of thing. And I just got back about half an hour ago, so I figured now might be a good time to do a video, but it's not going to be writing related. We're going to head over into the kitchen because I'm supposed to be making breadcrumbs and banana bread and all kinds of stuff. And I've been on the road for 2 hours, so obviously I couldn't really get anything done. So we're gonna pop into the other room and I'll set you up there and we'll just kind of chat about what you can expect in the next few months and years. So, yeah, what am I working on? Oh my god, it's so cluttered in here. Okay, hang on. Bear with me, I can keep a house, but I don't really care for it very much, so. So what have I been working on? Writing wise. I haven't really wanted to say anything about this because I don't like to commit to things and then not be able to live up to those commitments. But I have been kind of playing around with the idea of a 5th book in my series. Now, in terms of projects, things that I'm working on actively, I feel like compared to who I used to be, and when I was trying to turn writing into an actual career and not just a hobby, I always had something on the go. I always had some project that I was working on, and I always had ideas. That was the big thing. I always had some sort of spark. These ideas would just come out of nowhere, and they would entice me, and I would pursue them, and then they would turn into story ideas. And that hasn't really been happening lately. I'm thinking about a lot of stuff, but I'm not thinking about anything that is, for lack of a better word, appropriate for storytelling. I'm not making a whole lot of sense. And I think maybe you can tell just from watching this video that my head's kind of all over the place. Not in a bad way, just in a what am I doing, where am I going from here kind of way. I enjoy vlogging. I enjoy making videos. I enjoy editing videos. And I would like to continue doing that. I really would. But the content is going to have to evolve, I think, because if you're not really writing, and you're not really publishing, and you're not really talking about your books, how can you have a publishing-related YouTube channel? You can't, right? So, I've been thinking maybe what I could do, if you guys are interested in it. I could maybe talk a little bit more about what it means to have a second career, how you get a second career off the ground when you already have a career. That's sort of up in the air. Maybe at some point I could turn this into like a travel vlog. I thought that would be kind of a cool idea, even though I know it's been done 1,000,001 times before, but what's another travel vlog, right? And again, I struggle with the idea of wanting to keep my personal life private, but also wanting to share what I'm doing with people that I care about. And I feel like it's been a very difficult balancing act for me over the years. These are cracker crumbs, by the way. I've gotten rave reviews on my breadcrumbs, and people say, what's the secret? The secret is that I use everything. I use crackers, I use stale bread. I think at one point I used a hamburger bun that I had absolutely no use for. So yeah, if you want to make really good breadcrumbs, you just sort of have to amalgamate all kinds of stale grain products and add some seasoning. Usually I put it in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes at 375 until everything's kind of golden brown. Let it cool. Then I don't have a food processor, I have a blender, but the blender does the trick when you put it on the chop setting. And then, yeah, that's what we're gonna do, but I'm not actually gonna make you guys sit through all of that. I have half a bagel. It's not that I ate half the bagel and left the other half, it's that it was in the bag, like this, and now there are poppy seeds everywhere. I cannot get over how quickly the past 5 weeks have gone by. Basically since mid-March, I've been at my placement, which is a long-term care home. And at first I thought, oh wow, it's going to be a long 5 weeks. But my last day there was on Friday, and tomorrow is my first day at the rural hospital. And I'm kind of in disbelief. Hello, cat. Of course you're here. You're always there. You know, I think we tend to look at time as this like absolutely huge, insurmountable monolith that we're always fighting against, but I feel as I've gotten older that it just goes faster and faster and faster, and sometimes that scares me because I worry that I'm going to run out of time to do things that I really care about or that I really want to do. So the second week of May is when I should be writing my certification exam. And then after that, it's on to actually having a healthcare career, which is kind of unbelievable because if I'm being totally honest, which I usually am being totally honest, I never really pictured myself going this way. Like, I always kind of imagined myself doing something different, and I always thought that healthcare would be a really cool career, but I never actually believed that I was competent enough to pursue it. So the fact that I'm here now and everything kind of falling into place it's unbelievable, and it's kind of surreal, but I also really enjoy it. And I've learned a lot about myself in the past 5 weeks, like, you know, that I'm actually good at taking care of people and I enjoy it, which I think is probably one of those fundamental qualities you need to have as a PSW or a nurse. But it's also very strange to not really consider myself to be a writer anymore, because I was a writer for so long and now I'm just kind of a hobbyist, and it's a really weird feeling. It's like this huge piece of me that has been there for years is suddenly not. It's still there, but it's on very shaky ground, so I don't know. This is partly why I feel like I need to let the channel turn into something else, because I feel like if I force it to be a writing and publishing channel, I'm just going to become more and more disingenuous as the time wears on, and I don't want to be like that. Got these little breadcrumb foundations here. You don't have to cut them too small, just because we're going to grind them up later on, but you know, I kind of like them to hold their form a little bit. I got these random cracker crumbs that are going to go into that mixture. And basically what I do is I just put it all on like a baking sheet. I find darker is a little bit better because it absorbs more of that heat, and so they brown a little bit more quickly and evenly. Everything on there. Maybe this should turn into a cooking channel. I don't actually enjoy cooking that much, if I'm being completely real with you. I don't like doing a lot of house-related stuff. Which is not to say that I live in a dirty, messy home, because I don't. I just don't really care. You know, I feel like if the choice is between having a nice, clean, welcoming home and having a career that I'm excited and proud to work on and to improve on, then I will choose a career every time. And I've always been like that. So that oven was not preheating this whole time, which really tells you a lot about me, doesn't it? So we're gonna let that preheat for a couple of minutes. In the meantime, how many bananas do I have? I think I only need 4 or 5, but I have like 20 in there, so. I need the recipe for banana bread. I'm gonna do it a different way. Normally I have like a cake pan that I use when I make my banana bread, but the past few times that I've done it that way, it hasn't cooked evenly for some reason. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, which is a very real possibility, because as I said, I don't like spending time in the kitchen. I really just would rather be anywhere else doing anything else. But I'm gonna see maybe if this might be a really bad idea, but I'm gonna see if I can do it in a corningware. Yeah, that already doesn't sound like it's going to work, but we're gonna take a chance here, guys. I think there's something in here for banana bread. Sweets. If this box doesn't have banana bread in it, I'm gonna riot. It does not. Well, I found a recipe. The simplest recipe I could find, because I'm not into recipes that call for 16 different things I don't have. I wrote down the recipe right here. The other recipe is for shortbreads. That's the only thing I know I can make off the top of my head. But we don't have that much flour or icing sugar, so we're not going to do that today. So what's it like? I hope that's not all I have. What's it like working in long-term care? It's very humbling. It's eye-opening. At times it was funny. It's certainly an experience that I never thought I would have, and now that I've had it, it's really opened my eyes to the possibilities out there in terms of what I could be doing for a career, how I could be helping people. Will I stay in long-term care? I'm not sure. I've thought about it. The other day, on my last day actually, the director of care came up to me and she asked if I would be applying for a job there, and I said I would consider it. But of course, I still have my second half of my placement that I have to do, so I don't want to commit to anything quite yet. But I think if I had to go back, I would be very happy to do so, because the team there was really, really great, and everything was just organized and smooth and ran like a well-oiled machine. And you really do get attached to the residents after a while. And I was actually quite sad to have to leave on Friday, because you get to be so familiar and so intimate with these people, and just see all their unique personalities come out. And I think maybe sometimes society tends to look at the elderly as like a problem that we need to solve. Like, what are we going to do about the aging population? And we certainly do need to solve quite a few issues in that demographic, but I think sometimes when we're not close to the problem, we don't really understand it for what it is. And one thing that I learned quite quickly was to never judge a book by its cover, because some of the residents there, they've been there for a long time, and I think when you're in a home for a really long time and you're maybe not as cognitively healthy as you used to be, it can be really difficult to cope with emotionally. And I did see a lot of those responsive behaviors, and it really made me appreciate where I am right now, and the fact that I'm still young and I'm still physically able to do things and mentally able to do things without assistance, and I'm in a position to help other people. And I think it's really a good empathy building exercise to work with people who are much older than you, because they will teach you quite a bit of things, not just about life but about you as well. There's a kitty cat and she wants to go out. This is not enough flour for 2 cups. I'm gonna go see if we have some more somewhere. We're already not off to a good start. And sometimes it's hard to talk about your experiences in healthcare, because obviously there are confidentiality rules and just best practices that you shouldn't violate. But I will say that there were times when what I was learning in school didn't really align with what I saw in an actual clinical setting, and it was frustrating. It was frustrating because you spend all this time in school, in class, reading the books, hearing the lectures, and you think it's going to be like this. And then you get out there and you realize it's not like that at all. And the main reason for that discrepancy is time. Because the home where I was, there were 25 residents on each side of the home. So the home had 4 wings, and each wing had 25 residents, so 100 residents at that home alone. And every single day we were short-staffed, and so it was really hard to stay on top of that workload, and also work within the time constraints that the ministry wants us to work within. But it's really good, if you get that chance to work in a long-term care home, it's really good for teaching you how to manage and prioritize certain tasks, because the residents always come first. Okay, I think I have everything I need. So I have flour, I have this bag, it's almost done, and a brand new bag. I don't really tend to use a lot of flour here, so I think that'll be enough. Baking soda, which I typically only keep for grease fires and unclogging drains. And also deodorizing carpet. I don't know if you know that trick, but if you have pets, sometimes pets make messes on the carpet, so after you clean up all the moist, wet waste, if you sprinkle a little bit of baking soda on top of it, it deodorizes it naturally, so you don't have to rely on like harsh chemicals and stuff like that. Salt is in here. Brown sugar. I don't know what happened to all our brown sugar, because I don't use it. Is brown sugar supposed to sound like that? Like driving down a gravel road at night? Yeah, we're not using that, guys. We are not. Okay, you know what? We'll just use regular white cane sugar. Pretty much the same thing, right? I don't know. I don't do this enough. Butter. You know how expensive butter is nowadays? I hate it, guys. Freaking hate it. 2 eggs and 2 1/3 cups of bananas. I don't know how many bananas go into 2 1/3 cups. We're gonna learn a lot today, guys. So since I haven't really been writing that much lately, I haven't really been refilling the creative well that much. Or at least not as much as I used to, because I am still reading, of course. And I still write when I can, like when I have the time. But again, really hard to do when your brain is not programmed to storytelling mode anymore. It's not just something I can kind of whip up in a day, like, oh, I'm just going to write 5,000 words today, if I haven't actually been thinking of anything in particular. Although, I do try. I try to keep that writing muscle exercised as much as possible, because I still enjoy it as a hobby, and I don't want to lose. I've already made a huge mess. Holy shit. I don't want to lose that passion for the creativity, for storytelling, for novel writing that I've always had. I've been watching a lot more YouTube videos lately, which is kind of surprising, because I'm not really a watcher. I'm not a TV watcher or a movie watcher. But I tend to make an exception for YouTube videos because they're sort of short and sweet, and I can curate them a little bit better. And surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, I don't know, a lot of the channels that I've been watching or subscribing to lately have been like travel and relocation type channels. Like what they like to live and work in this city, or be a healthcare provider in another city. So I guess that's kind of the direction my life is taking now. Now I'm pivoting into a second career as a personal support worker, with the ultimate overriding goal of going into nursing after that. But I don't want to think too many steps ahead, because there's still a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of work between where I am right now and where I want to be in 5 years' time. So I'm trying to take baby steps, but I'm also really, really excited for the possibility of working in another country and kind of getting a feel for a completely different culture, or maybe a slightly similar culture but a different location, different neighborhood, different workplace, different people, different stores, different everything. I'm really kind of into starting over, as if you couldn't tell from the fact that I tend to start books over 7 or 8 times before I actually settle on a plot that I like. So we have 2 cups of flour in the bowl. We need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. What about you guys? Have you ever started over with anything? Have you ever moved to a new city or a new town, started a new career somewhere? Maybe you started over in a relationship after being with someone for a long time, which I think is also very, very scary in itself. And, when I was younger, I used to be really afraid of change, and I used to think, I'll always stay in this town, I'll always live in this house, I'll always do this one thing, like writing, for instance. And it's funny what a little time and life experience does to your perspective. And you realize that there's a whole big world out there, and you kind of want to see it. You want to see the other versions of yourself that you can be. And I would recommend, you don't have to do this, of course, I'm just some face on the internet. But if you get a chance to do something that you never thought you would do, take that chance, because the alternative is getting old and being in a nursing home and wondering what your life could have been. And I don't know if I could handle that, so I don't know. We will see. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Why didn't I just grab the 1/4 teaspoon of salt? 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, which we do not have. So we're gonna go with plain old cane sugar. I think I may have used cane sugar before, so I'm pretty sure it works. I mean, what's the difference? It's basically brown sugar, just white sugar with molasses, right? Is it? Or am I completely stupid? I don't know. Here we go. So a lot of sugar, friends. Whoa. Oh my goodness. You know what it feels like to be in your 30s and not have a firm grasp of how to use this shit in your kitchen? Yeah. Well then, join the club. It took a really long time for me to get to the point of actually wanting to go back to school at all, especially because I thought I was too old, which I see that a lot these days, people saying, you're 25 too old, you're 35 too old, you're 50 too old, and I think now that I've had some time to actually go back and change things, I realize how completely and utterly ridiculous it is to think that you're too old to do anything. My mom didn't want to go back to work when I was in high school because she thought she was too old. And I do understand where that fear comes from because I felt it myself. But I like that saying that you're never... No, how does it go? This is as young as you'll ever be. Today is as young as you'll ever be, or something like that. And I think it's a good reminder that time is just a construct, just a way to organize ourselves, to prioritize our tasks. It's not necessarily meant to be a constraint. Like sometimes it is. It is in a long-term care home, for instance. But sometimes time is also just an excuse that we use to not do things. I don't have the time, or I'm too old, or whatever it is. So, I'm rambling, but that's okay. I don't even know how to make half a cup of butter happen. I'm surely doing something wrong, right? When it came to having a second career, one of my biggest concerns was whether or not I was going to have time for school when I was working. And now that I've done it, I see that it's not as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. And initially I started out taking classes part-time through ILC, which is the Independent Learning Center. They're based out of Toronto. So I did 2 classes with them. I did a university level biology and a college level math. And I found that was quite manageable. And so when I discovered Oxford College and I decided to look into the PSW program there, they were only offering full-time course loads. But at that time I thought, well, I've been working and sort of going to school virtually with ILC for, it had been about a year at that point. And I kind of felt that I could manage that load or that responsibility pretty well. But it was an adjustment because my classes were 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. And then of course there were assignments and readings and everything like that. And at the end of the program you have to do 8 weeks of placement. So time is certainly a big consideration if you're going to go back and start a second career. But I think it's worth it to sacrifice some wages in the short term for better wages in the long term. That's how I've been looking at it. Because otherwise, if I only focused on what I can do right now, I'm not necessarily going to get better at anything, and I'm not necessarily going to have a good career later on down the line. Now it says I have to beat the eggs, which sounds so violent. So I combined pretty much all the ingredients except for the bananas, which are currently defrosting in the microwave. Again, I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but that's how we're doing it today. So, see if we can clean up a little bit here. I think I have a few really good ideas for a 5th book in my series. Because there's one question that's always been unanswered or unaddressed in the series, and that's what happened to Ray's dad and where he went and why he never came back. Between the 1st book and the 5th book, that's about 10 years. And I feel like that's a pretty significant chunk of time when it comes to a person's life and how much they grow and who they become. So again, I'm not actually saying one way or another if I am doing it. I'm just kind of thinking about it at this point. Breadcrumbs are done. You can see they turned out a little bit on the dark side, but that's fine because it kind of gives them a little bit more of a smoky flavor when I mix it all in with the seasoning, so can't complain there. But I also can't get this here right now because I'm making banana bread. I do have a title in mind. I don't know if it's good. It just sort of follows the format of all the other series books. I have somewhat of a loose outline that I could potentially use, but again, outlines are just guidelines. They're not hard and fast rules for me. And my characters have a tendency to just go off book anyway. So, we'll see. It's always cool and it's always fun to start a new project, but it's also really overwhelming in those first few months when you're trying to find your footing. And I guess it's kind of like when you're starting a new career and you don't really know what you're doing yet. But gradually over time, the pieces start to fall into place and things start to make sense. And the little things just have a way of working out, and I hope that for both my healthcare career and whatever project I end up working on next, it'll be the same way, and I will not go on wasting my time, because that would be really stupid. There's a cat here in my coffee, and the cat is not even on the counter. What is my life? I'm thinking if I keep this uncovered, like you would do for a cake pan, it won't be so bad. But again, this is an experiment and it may not work because experiments don't always support the hypothesis. However, we're going to do it differently because I don't like the results of doing this in a cake pan, and I don't have a loaf pan, and I'm a complete dumbass when it comes to baking anything really, so we're gonna just play it by ear. You know, it actually doesn't look too bad. So, maybe it will all work out. Possibly. I think that's what we think about anything that we do, right? Just hope for the best. Okay, so I'm not gonna lift the cord anymore, I'm gonna lift the phone. Okay. This is what it looks like. And according to the recipe, this goes into the oven at 350 degrees for 60 minutes. Okay. So that's that. I'm not gonna make this video another hour long, but maybe I will show you the end result once it's all said and done. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed hanging out with me, even though this was a very, very casual, completely unstructured, very little point to it kind of vlog. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, maybe leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you sometime in the future on some other video. And I have absolutely no idea what it will be about, but I'm sure it will be exciting to discover what this channel can become. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you next time. Bye. Alright, so this is the finished product. See, this is the thing that always happens. It always gets really dark on the top, then the color underneath is fine. So I don't know if it's the dish that I'm using or the oven settings or what. But you know what? I'm not gonna complain because it seems like it turned out okay.